Hey guys, today we wanted to talk about all the different uses that you can do with a summoning skill. But first, if you guys are finding these videos helpful, it would really mean a lot if you gave it a like and subscribe to the channel. That'll really help us make more videos in the future for you guys. First, we just want to clarify that this is not a summoning skill guide, but more just a guide for people who are beginning players or returning players and who are getting a little bit overwhelmed with a summoning skill or want to find out what you can do with this skill.
If you do want to level up summoning, we do have a summoning skill guide that we're going to put a link in the description. It is Iron Man friendly, so if you are an Iron Man, don't worry, we got you covered.
Alright, so let's get into it.
So the first type of familiar that we're going to be covering is going to be Beast of Burden pouches. Honestly, Beast of Burden is one of the best things that were added to this game. It just pretty much doubles your inventory size once you get to the higher levels. And as you know, inventory space can be very tight sometimes, so this is a really useful familiar. When you first start off, Spirit Calphites and Bull Ants are going to be your first options for Beast of Burdens. They're not really that useful because their inventory is very small, but once you get to level 56 and so on, you'll start unlocking Spirit Terrorbirds, War Tortoises, Yaks, and Pack Mammoths. So as I briefly mentioned before, the reason you're going to want this is for extra inventory space. It'll help you during hard fights where you might need extra food, or help you increase your efficiency when skilling if you need more inventory space to store items that you gather. The possibilities of what you can use with these Beast of Burdens are endless. The one Beast of Burden that I want to talk about specifically is going to be Pack Yaks. Other than the fact that the Pack Yak can hold 30 extra slots, which is 2 more than your current inventory, it also has something called Yak's Winter Storage. Basically what you can do with this is you use the Yak's special ability on an item in your inventory and then it'll send it directly to the bank, completely freeing up that spot. This can be very useful, for instance, if you're going to God Wars Dungeon 1. If you're killing Krill, you can use that to bank the ashes.
So Beast of Burden pouches can be really useful for combat, but if you're somebody who's a little bit more proficient in fighting, you might not need that. Instead, you can be using combat familiars, which will help you get faster kills. So any familiar can attack your target, but combat familiars are going to have a lot of different boosts and benefits for you. You can see all of the different combat familiars here, but a couple of the more notable ones are Ripper Demons and Nils. So some of these familiars are going to give you different effects just by having them summoned. Like Ripper Demons are going to increase the damage you deal up to 5% passively. And depending on which Nil you have summoned, they're going to boost your accuracy for the specific combat style. Although there are some combat familiars that will only give you a benefit by having their scroll. Like Calgarian Demons have the critical scroll that will give you a plus 5% critical strike buff once it's used. It's worth noting that whatever combat familiar you're going to be using can be situational depending on what you're fighting. So it would make more sense to use something like a Ripper Demon or a Calgarian Demon against Araxi, whereas if you're fighting somebody like Nex who has a lot of defense, you're going to want to use something that gives you more accuracy like a Nil.
And on the topic of combat related familiars, we also have healers. Now, healers are not as useful as they used to be. There's just better options out there that you could be using. But if you do want to use them, some of the more notable options are going to be a Bunyip and a Unicorn. The Bunyip is a decent low-level familiar that you can use when training Slayer, but at lower levels, because it's not going to be able to keep up with healing for higher level creatures. I feel like it's only really worth using if you're on Legacy mode, since it doesn't really scale well with modern combat style. Other than that, the best healing familiar is going to be the Unicorn. This healing ability is not passive, so you will need to use a scroll. The only place that I use this is at the Elves and Prif, but you could always just use a Yak instead. It's just pretty redundant, really.
And now let's take a look at the skill boosting familiars. There are a lot of different kind of familiars for these, so we'll put up a list of some of them and show you what skills they'll help you out in. So generally, these types of familiars are meant to raise your skilling level or give you an invisible boost. Even though you won't see an increased level in your skills, an invisible boost will help you become more efficient in whatever activity you're doing. But you won't be able to perform any activity that goes beyond whatever your base level is. So just as an example, if you have 59 woodcutting and you're using a familiar that's giving you at least a 1 level invisible boost, you'll be able to cut maple trees or any other lower level tree a little bit faster. But you won't be able to cut yew trees even though yews can be cut at level 60, and that's because it's an invisible boost, as opposed to a temporary visible boost which would let you cut the yew tree. But anyway, these familiar boosts do not stack with whatever boost you would get from potions, but depending on what you're using, it would last longer. Aside from those familiars that give you boosts for skilling, the Water Fiend is also really good to use. The Water Fiend is going to give you a 5% chance to duplicate any kind of gathered resource, and it's going to store it in itself. So this kind of thing is going to be good for mining, fishing, woodcutting, divination, and especially archaeology to help you get a lot more materials. And you can even use their scroll to use their ability to teleport all of the items that they have to the bank.
Another category of familiars are going to be ones that could teleport you around RuneScape. We have the Void Ravager, Torture, and Spinner. We have the Spirit Kayak, La Rupia, and Nagarak, which teleport you to different hunter areas, and we have the Lava Titan, which teleports you to the Lava Maze Wilderness. Now, be very careful when using this one because it doesn't give you a warning. It will just teleport you to the wilderness, and people do use this as a way to try and lure you there, so just be very careful with that one.
And lastly, even though these aren't technically summons, you can use summoning to get a few different pets. If you're level 70 and you've been incubating different bird eggs, you can get the God Birds, which also provide protection in God Wars Dungeon 1. And if you also have 85 Dungeoneering or 99 Summoning, you can get the Frosty Pet in the Dungeoneering shop. This is only really worth it if you're somebody that likes to collect a lot of different pets. Aside from all of those different familiars, once you reach 99 Summoning, you can also get the Skill Cape. Wearing it will give you a 2% chance to not consume a charm when infusing summoning pouches. Even though farming charms isn't really that hard, it can help you save a little bit of time, especially if you plan on going to 120.
So here you can see a list of what I keep in my bank. The reason I keep all these are because I use them on a regular basis, so I buy them or make them myself, and then I keep them stocked up so I don't have to worry about it for a while. Now, the reason I have most of these familiars are pretty obvious, but the one that might not seem so obvious is the beaver. The reason I have the beaver is because it does increase my chances of getting more bolts when I do my Brackrimal bolt runs. And for those of you who don't know, that's a very good way to make a lot of money or stock up on bolts for when you PVM. I also keep meerkats because they're useful for clue scrolls. If you use their special ability, then you can avoid combat situations. It also increases the range for when you have scanning clues.
Alright, so if you're somebody who's wondering why you should be leveling summoning or what kind of things you can get out of this skill, that's pretty much everything you need to know. Once again, if you want to know how you can actually level up this skill, we'll put a link in our description showing our Iron Man friendly summoning skill guide. But other than that, if you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe for more.
We'd also like to give a special thanks to our patrons for your support. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you later.
Bye.